The President, please be seated. The court is now back in session. Without further ado, we would like to now hand over to the International Co-Prosecutor to pose questions to the witness. Before that, as indicated, could Mr. Co-Prosecutor indicate to the Chamber the time that has been allocated among the civil party lawyers and the co-prosecutors, please?
Mr. President, can I explain the position, please, in this way? The Office of the Co-Prosecutors initially made a request for Mr. Kim Vun to be allocated 1.5 days to be shared between the Office of the Co-Prosecutors and the civil parties. There was then a response that effectively was allocating only 3/4 of 1 day to be shared between the prosecutors and the civil parties. Mr. President, that led last week to the prosecutors effectively asking for more time, and the 3/4 of a day became 1 day to be shared between the prosecution and the civil parties. Mr. President, I want, please, very respectfully to make this request. And it's made against this background that the prosecution are not in the habit of making unwarranted requests for further time. But, Mr. President, I am going to request further time for these reasons. Mr. Kim Vun is an important witness. He has an extensive knowledge about this period. Secondly, we wish to avoid, if possible, having to recall him to come back at a later date to give evidence in these proceedings. Thirdly, my examination of him will be involving the assessment of a number of issues of Revolutionary Flag magazine. He is therefore a document-heavy witness. Can I also say this, that in respect of the former witness that we heard from, Madame Sarsiak, we've saved half a day already in terms of her overall time estimate. Can I give you, Mr. President, please, some timings? So far, the prosecution have spent 1 hour and 50 minutes with Mr. Kim Vun. A 1.5 day allocation of time to be shared between the prosecution and civil parties would amount to 7 hours and 10 minutes. It's for those reasons, very respectfully, I urge, please, Mr. President, the Court to consider allocating 1.5 days to be shared between the prosecution and the civil parties for this witness. And as I say, that was the original request from the prosecution. I hope you will accept that my questioning thus far has been targeted on specific issues, with short questions seeking to elicit relevant evidence for the Court. And it's for those reasons I ask for a full 1.5 days to be shared between the prosecutors and the civil parties.
The President, you may proceed then.
Oui, Monsieur le Président, si je...
Yes, Mr. President, if I might clarify, the Chamber would like to specify that this witness will only be questioned by one of the civil party lawyers, Counsel Pinier, who needs an hour and a half maximum, between an hour and an hour and a half. Thank you.
The President, Counsel Kanawaz, would you wish to be heard? You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Your Honors, and good afternoon to everyone in and around the courtroom. First of all, it is up to the trial chamber to decide how much time to allocate for each witness, not for the parties to barter and say, well, we'll use less time for one witness if we have more time for the other. If that's the case, then it's up to the trial chamber to make a decision in advance. But secondly, and more importantly, time saved from one witness because some of us are being more judicious or have no need to question the witness doesn't mean that we get to spend that time with another witness. Otherwise, if that is the case, then in order to prevent the prosecution from having even more time, we would be forced to use all of our time just as a matter of principle. For the sake of efficiency, we should only be taking the amount of time that is absolutely necessary. Now, I take the prosecutor at its word, but I think the better argument is to say this is the amount of time we want, not since the defense did not use up all of the time in the previous witness, now we get to use it for this witness that's coming up. So far, I have yet to hear an argument as to why so much time is necessary with this witness, because the amount of time that is being asked is a lot of time for a witness of this nature. Thank you.
The President, thank you, counsels, for the observation. The Chamber has not yet ruled upon this. Co-prosecutor may continue to proceed posing questions to the witness until the end of the day. The Chamber will come up with the ruling on this by tomorrow. And we also have noted concerning the time that has not been used with one witness, that the time could be then accumulated to be used for other witness. This is not appropriate. Time that has already been allocated for one witness has to be used at that time, and it cannot be considered to be used for putting questions to another witness. The Chamber again will rule upon the additional time, whether it could be granted or not, given the importance of a witness. You may now proceed, Mr. Co-Prosecutor. The President continues. I would like to also inform parties that, if I am not mistaken, each part, the witness will have only 1 day and a half for putting questions to the witness. So no party shall be allowed to ask for more than 1.5 days. We may give additional time, but based on the time wasted during, for example, matters that may arise during the question of the witness. You may now proceed.
Mr. President, I'm grateful. Mr. Kimborn, we were talking before the last break about handwritten annotations on material that you considered. You said that you had recognised the handwriting of Brother Poll. Was there any other annotation handwriting that you recognised?
Response. I noted the annotations would be, for example, like these documents or text needed to be printed immediately. That's part of the annotations.
I'm going to move on to another topic, the content of the Revolutionary Flag magazine. Source document E3/381, Khmer 00357205, French 004029998, and English 00365528. You said, Mr. Kim Vun, that the contents of the revolutionary flag were about internal party principles and guidelines of the upper echelon of the party for the low-level cadre to implement and follow. In respect of principles, you've said already in evidence today that the content concerned political lines, theory, and ideology. Can you please give us an example of the political lines?
Response. I may wish to give you an example. The plan was laid out for rebuilding the country. In that context, we would be talking about building or constructing the country. Then there would be a plan to increase the rice yield to 3 tons per hectare. And another example, if it was to offensive attack to defend the country based on the Great Leap Forward principle, then we had to follow the plan accordingly. And I have not remembered other lines, and I am not tasked with reading the Revolutionary Flags magazines anyway.
Were you a party member?
Response. The President intervenes. Mr. Witness, you should not respond without the red light. If you do so, then it will be very time consuming because you have to repeat that and your message may not be heard. So please do that again. Respond again. Response. No, I was not. I was in the Youth League.
Now, in terms of revolutionary flags that you saw, was the victory of the 17th of April 1975 ever mentioned in revolutionary flag?
Response. I do not think I have verified the information when I came to Phnom Penh because I was attached to writing the newspapers and I was too busy with that task to care about that flags.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but earlier in your evidence this morning or today, you had mentioned that when you first got to Phnom Penh, that you were tasked with, as far as I understood your evidence, putting together some sort of paper or document. Is that correct?
Response. Yes, it is.
On this first document that you were dealing with, and this is soon after the evacuation of Phnom Penh, what was that article, magazine, document about?
Response. It was I did not prepare those documents at that time. For me, who was attached to the newspaper section, we had to visit printing houses to check the books that stored in each printing house. When it comes to the content of the documents, we as authors, we had to make sure that the message was to be friendly and read by the public, the popular mass, and it should be broad. And for the content of the revolutionary flags, no author had ever had experience in the flags or writing, because it was written by others.
Now, aside from political lines, theory and ideology, party principles and guidelines, can I ask this? Was the anniversary of the 17th of April 1975, did that anniversary ever give rise to any written material?
Response. Normally during the anniversary of the 17th of April, there would be events, and the newspapers would have to cover this information of the events, and also the radio broadcast could also cover such content.
Thank you. Was the birthday of the Communist Party of Kampuchea from 1960, was that ever covered in a revolutionary flag?
Response. I don't remember this precisely. Nonetheless, during the anniversary at the stadium, there was statement or speech by Brother Paul. It is possible that such content could be covered. However, such statement would never be released to the newspapers section. Only if we had some curiosity or wanting to know the content of this, that we could ask for reading.
Thank you. I'm moving on to another subject, which I'm calling target audience. Source document E/380. ERNs Khmer 00357200. French 00485433. English 00365645. When you were talking about who received the revolutionary flag, you said only to party cadre and the zone, sector and district levels, and you also said it was a confidential document. First question, why was the revolutionary flag only distributed to cadre?
Response. So far as I know, cadres need this very much for leading other people. So the content was very much wanted in the revolutionary flags, because the flags are served as the medium for communicating the message to the other people.
From your knowledge, then, was it important that cadres read the Revolutionary Flag magazine?
Response. Yes, from my knowledge, during the time of war or any other time, cadres very much in need of reading the flags so that they are well guided.
How would an individual cadre know it was important to read the revolutionary flag?
Response. As indicated earlier on, the content of the flags were mainly about the rebuilding the country, defense of the country, and normally these message would be secret. However, those cadres who were informed would then have to impart these to others.
So just to clarify that back end of your last answer, were cadre expected just to read the contents on their own, individually, or was group discussion ever encouraged?
Response. I don't know about this. I don't know whether each individual would be offered a copy, but I believe that an individual would be offered the copy and he or she would impart the information to others. Like at my place, we have our senior cadres who supervised us, and if we would like to read anything about the flags, then we would have to talk to them, because we, the writers, needed some information so that we could be good at writing.
Thank you. Can you help us on, just roughly, how many copies were published each time the revolutionary flag was published?
Response. I don't know the exact number of copies, but every time there was a stack of magazines of each issue.
Next subject heading, distribution. Source document E3/380. Khmer 00357197. French 00485430. English 00365642. On that page, Mr. Kim Bun, you said that the revolutionary flag was disseminated nationwide. First question, can you help us on who came to collect the copies prior to them being distributed?
Response. I do not know. I just saw the copies being loaded on trucks, and they would be distributed to 3 or 4, for example. Not individual person's name would be listed on the recipient's list. Sometimes they would just say that these copies had to be delivered to the East without referring to each or specific individual.
Mr. Kim Vaughan, just for clarification, when you just said district, I don't know if you said district 304 or district 3 or 4. Can you clarify, please?
The interpreter could not catch what the witness was saying. The mic was not activated. The President intervenes. Mr. Witness, your response was not heard because the mic was not on. Response. The number, the coding 304 here refers to the North Zone.
Thank you. Did the party leaders receive copies?
Response. Sometimes they could be retrieved or could be collected back.
Mr. Convener, it's probably me. I don't understand that answer. You said sometimes they could be retrieved or collected back. My question was, and a yes or no will suffice for my purposes, did the party leaders receive copies?
The President, Mr. Witness, your mic was not yet activated. Please hold on until you see the red light before you proceed with your response. Response. I said, as long as the people in the zone and sectors receive the copies, those in Phnom Penh would also have received the copies because my boss also received a copy, and I believe that every member or cadre of the party could have received a copy.
When we say every cadre, were they distributed to cadres working outside the country?
Response. I don't know.
Did you ever receive complaints that cadres were not receiving their copies?
Response. No, I don't know.
How did you know, Mr. Kim Vaughan, if an edition of the revolutionary flag was a success or a failure, or how it had been received?
Response. I don't know. The only thing I knew was that I saw the copies were being delivered in stacks to various locations.
Thank you, Mr. Kim Vaughan. I'm moving now to specific documents. Mr. President, I'd like, please, Mr. Kim Vaughan to be shown from the prosecution's document bundle. It is 3 pages, certainly in English. Source document number E3/5. That's the front copy of a Revolutionary Flag magazine. and then 2 extracts from that document, which I'll give the ERNs to in due course. So please, Mr. President, can Mr. Kim Vun be handed this bundle of documents extracted from E3/5?
You may proceed. Court officer is instructed now to obtain the document from the prosecutor and hand it over to the witness.
While that's been done, can I explain to everyone in court that this is the front page of a revolutionary flag, issue 8, August 1975. Now, Mr. Kim Vun, you should have before you, first of all in this pack, the front page of a revolutionary flag, issue 8, August 1975. ERNs Khmer 000-63311, French 00538951, English 00401476. Now, just pausing for a minute on this front document, you said to us earlier today that there was a time when the front page to Revolutionary Flag, I think you said, was being produced at K27. Is that correct?
No, it was never published in K27. The publication was normally printed in Office K25, but this particular cover page was printed in K26.
Now, if we just set this in a time frame, this issue is August 1975. So this is only 4 months after you started working at the ministry. Looking at the front page, we can see that there are 5 flags towards the top of the document. Was there any meaning or message behind these 5 flags to your knowledge?
That I do not know because I was not a member of the party. I did come across this front page, but I did not read them.
Yes, that's fine. Now, I'd like you to turn the page over, explaining to my learned friends present in court and Mr. President and their honours. This is still on E3/5. It's ERN Khmer 000-63324, French 00538963, and English 00401488. Now, Mr. Kim Vun, the heading on the top of this page is "Long live the magnificent revolutionary army of the Communist Party of Kampuchea." And the document starts with these words: on the 22nd of July 1975, on the occasion of the ceremony of the Communist Party of Kampuchea Centre to establish the Revolutionary Army, the Comrade Chairman of the High-Level Military Committee of the party convened an important political conference of the Communist Party of Kampuchea Centre for approximately 3,000 representatives of every unit of the Revolutionary Army. Now, can you remember this ceremony which took place on the 22nd of July 1975?
I do not recall, and I do not even recall where it was organized. It could have been organized in the Olympic stadiums, but I could not recall, and particularly I did not attend these kinds of important gathering.
I want to ask you about the content of the document, and I'm going to ask you if the entries I read were typical of what you've already told us about messages. Page, still on E3/5, ERN page Khmer 000-63341, French 00538976, English 00401501, and you're going to be handed now this page to follow what I'm reading in English. So this is an extract from a document, and it says as follows, and I hope you have a red box on your document. I'm going to read the English, and I'd like you to follow it in Khmer and indicate if you do not have this extract. But there's an extract which reads as follows. Now that we have seized control, we must defend the country, because the external enemies and the internal enemies want to seize back power, to seize it overtly by warfare, to seize it ideologically and economically by espionage, and to seize it overtly and covertly in every way so that war will re-emerge. Now, is that extract talking about defending the country typical of the message that you've already described earlier today to the court?
The President, witness, please hold on. The Defense Counsel for Nuon Chea, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. If I understood your clarifications of last Friday correctly, the prosecution is supposed to first establish whether or not the witness has seen this document, and specifically this part of the document. If he has not, then it needs to be taken away from him because, in your words, it might confuse the witness. We do not agree with that understanding of the rules, but these are the rules and they should apply to the prosecution as well.
Mr. President, the ruling that was expanded upon by Judge Laverne last week was in these terms as I understood it. That if the witness hadn't seen the document, questions could still be asked about the content of the document, that extracts of the document could be cited, and not as my learned friend Mr. Power had last week of being urged to paraphrase when he was on his feet. Can I make this observation? that if we take the written document away from a witness, he's listening to my explanation of what the document contains. He can't follow it with having the document in front of him. And I put it's a rhetorical question effectively, but is there any difference between the witness having the document in front of them to follow the question so that they can actually read what the question contains? Is there really any difference between that and me reading out the whole of the extract to him? I would respectfully suggest that if a witness has a nexus with the subject matter of the document, which plainly this witness does with his connection with the revolutionary flag, if one then adds on to that Judge Laverne's clarification of the ruling, which was in these terms, that provided the questioning goes to content which is relevant, then the questioning is admissible before the court. Now, it really matters to me not whether this document is withdrawn from the witness or whether the witness keeps it, but a witness in any position, in my respectful submission, is far better assisted by having a document in front of them to follow which contains relevant, admissible evidence than to remove the document from him. But I'm in the court's hands.
The President. I now hand over to Judge Jean-Marc Lavange to respond to the objection raised by the defense team for Nguyen Chia. You may proceed, Judge.
Yes, I will try to recall what was said during the trial management meeting. Basically, that when we are dealing with a document that has been tendered into evidence and that has been shown to the parties, it is a document whose contents can be used to lay a foundation to questions that a party wishes to ask. Such a document can be given to the witness, but it would be withdrawn from the witness if the President is of the view that the document is likely to influence the answers of the witness. But insofar as the document is known to the witness or may be related to the document, I don't think there is need to withdraw the document from the witness or that it be removed from the screen. I hope that this answers the objections, so the objection is overruled.
The President, I hand over to the prosecution to continue his line of questioning. You may proceed.
Mr. Kimborn, I was reading out an extract from this revolutionary flag. I'd read out the extract. Part of the extract mentioned, as you know, defending the country, and I was asking you the question, was the extract that you have in front of you, was that typical of the message, defending the country?
I do not recall it clearly, but if you ask me to respond to the portion of this document, I don't think I can respond to it well enough. I was a journalist or a news writer, and if you ask me about the content of the revolutionary flag, I could not comment on it. And normally, I was given only a portion of the article written in the revolutionary flag for publication. I could not comment in details about that because I was the news writer and I did not understand the policy also behind.
Mr. Kimborn, can I clarify? You've already told us in your evidence today about the content of revolutionary flag containing politics, ideology, theory. I'm not asking you whether you saw this particular extract in this particular revolutionary flag. What I'm asking you is, was "we must defend the country" part of the political message?
I also attended the training about that, and when I had to write any articles about that, I had to discuss with my fellow colleagues, because when we wrote a news article, it had to be in a broader perspective. It was not some things that was secretive. Normally, the content of the revolutionary flag was meant to be distributed to cadres across the country as a training material. But as for newspaper, we had to expand it in a broader way. But if you ask me to comment on the content of the revolutionary flag, I'm afraid I cannot explain. But of course, in terms of the central message of it, that was the defense of the national country. Yes, it was the defense of the country before the construction of the country could take place. But if you ask me to dwell on the substance of this revolutionary flag, I cannot comment. And as I mentioned earlier, I was not a party member. I was merely a member in the Youth League. And within the Youth League, aside from the editors and the writers of the revolutionary flags, they did not understand the detail of the content of the magazine. But I think it was likely to be the case as what I described earlier, because I did see the cover page, but I did not study the content of this magazine.
Next question is not restricted necessarily to revolutionary flag, but in the whole of your time from 1975 through to 1979, do you remember anything being said about internal and external enemies?
Yes, I did. But they did not explain it in detail. They normally mentioned the Vietnamese or Yuen enemy or the KGB agent, but I could not explain the detail of this. And in each presentation or training, they did not provide us any study materials at all. We had to jot down the points by ourselves. Normally, when we attended the training, we had to bring along with us a writing pad and a pen in order to take notes, the points during the training. And for example, we had to use certain shorthand to take notes certain points throughout the training course.
Mr. Kim Vaughan, thank you very much. I'd like to move on to another document, please. Source document E3/380, ERN Khmer 00357202, French 004854434. This is still one of your statements to the investigators in this case. I'm going to read out the extract and then show you a document. You said on this page, and you're talking about Samdak Sihanouk, and you say, at first Samdak Sihanouk was the chairman of the State Presidium. But later on, Samdak Sihanouk transferred the position to Khieu Samphan. I saw the document in the printing house I worked in. I saw that document in French and English. Mr. President, I'd like please now to hand to Mr. Kim Vaughan a relevant document. Whilst it's been handed forward, can I explain to my learned friends in court that the document is headed the first plenary session of the first legislature of the People's Representative Assembly of Kampuchea. Now, Mr. Kim Vaughan, I'm going to take you through sections of this document, and then I'm going to ask you if, having seen the document, whether it refreshes you in any way. The E3 number on the document I have is E3/262. Now, if you look at the front page, it talks of a press release. The date of the press release is the 14th of April 1976. the bottom of the page reveals that there's this writing on the bottom: the mission of Democratic Kampuchea to France. The next page that you have, I hope, will be Khmer 00622986, French 00004706, English 00528389. Again, we have the same detail, that it's a press release of the 14th of April 1976. And the first line of the text talks of this, and I quote, "After the successful election of its members on the 20th of March 1976, the People's Representative Assembly of Kampuchea held the first plenary session of its first legislature." After that, Mr. Kim Vun, you should have a page Khmer 00622989, French 00004708, and English 005283991. And I wonder if I can have assistance just checking that Mr. Kim Vun has the Khmer page 00622989. We have a heading on this page in capitals: Examination and Decision on the request of Samdech Norodom Sihanouk for retirement from office, as set out in his statement of the 2nd of April 1976, and examination of the government's statement of the 4th of April 1976 thereon. And in the text of the document it says, "The Assembly grants the request for retirement of Samdech Norodom Sihanouk." On the next page, Khmer 006229.
The President, Counsel for Mr. Kyosampon, you may proceed. Counsel Kong Samon. Thank you, Mr. President. I take issue with the line of questioning by the co-prosecutor because he has gone deep inside the content of the document without having asked the witness to confirm whether he has ever seen this document before. I am convinced that this practice is not appropriate.
Mr. President, there needs to be a crystallisation, I suggest now, of the understanding by counsel of this rule. It is not, as far as I understand the ruling, and in my respectful submission, I'm going to ask the question that Onifrim wants me to ask in one moment. But it's not necessary for the first question to be, have you seen the document before? Because if the document's relevant and the witness has a nexus to it, and in this case the witness has mentioned what appears to be the document in their OCIJ statement, well then the questioning has to establish the foundation of what's in the document before the witness can be asked, was this the document that you're referring to? And so it's not necessary, as far as I understand this rule, with every single document, the first question of counsel having to be, have you read it? Because if the witness says, no, I haven't, Judge Laverne's saying, well, if the content's relevant, questioning can still proceed with the document in the witness's hands. This has to be understood by all counsel in this court.
The President. The objection by counsel for Mr. Kyusompon is overruled. Mr. Co-Prosecutor, you may proceed to put your questions to the witness, and witness is instructed to respond to the questions being put.
I wonder if I can ask just for some assistance with checking that the witness will have this page in Khmer in the pack that's already been provided. The next page I was referring to is ERN Khmer 006229990, French 00004709, and English 005283992. This document then has towards, or there should be a red box for you, Mr. Kimbun. The heading is Appointment of the State Presidium of Democratic Kampuchea. And it says, after in-depth discussion of the ramifications of the various conditions, the Assembly appointed the following persons to the State Presidium of Democratic Kampuchea. Number 1, Khieu Samphan, President. Now, pausing there, this document says in terms that Samdech Norodom Sihanouk has retired and that Khieu Samphan has been appointed as President of the State Presidium. Now, was this the document that you saw, whether in English or French, perhaps French, but was this the document you saw in the printing house you worked in when you were saying at first Samdech Sihanouk was the chairman of the State Presidium, but later on Samdech Sihanouk transferred the position to Khieu Samphan?
Response. This document was originally in Khmer. When I noted that it was published at 27, I grasped the overall content that the king had resigned, and that Mr. Khieu Samphan would then become his successor as a state presidium. However, I did not take notice about the shake-up of this leadership level, but I have never seen this document in Khmer before. I believe that the documents I noted that I saw back then was in French or English. I just feel that at that time I paid no attention to that. I only learned that the king or some like resigned, and there was a statement on that, and I was overwhelmed with my tasks, too overwhelmed to care for the information. So people who would like to know more about the evolution of the event would have to resort to listening to the radio broadcast to keep themselves abreast of the situation.
Mr. Kimborn, thank you very much for that answer. Mr. President, I see that the time is 4:10. Is this an appropriate moment to break? And if it is, can I thank the Court for its indulgence in allowing this theme to be questioned upon?
The President, thank you very much, Mr. Witness and Prosecution. It is now an appropriate moment for today's adjournment. The session will be adjourned. The next session will be resumed by Wednesday, which is tomorrow, by 9 a.m. For tomorrow's session, we continue hearing the testimony of Mr. Kum Won. Questions continue to be put by the prosecution and followed by the co-lawyers for the civil parties. Then defense counsels will have the floor. Mr. Kum Won, your testimony has not yet been concluded. You are invited to return to the courtroom tomorrow. Court officer is now instructed to coordinate with the vessel unit to ensure that Mr. Kum Won is properly accommodated tonight and have him return to the courtroom by 9 a.m. Security personnel are now instructed to bring all the 3 accused persons to the detention facility and have them return to the courtroom by 9 a.m. The court is adjourned.
សូមអញ្ជើញក្រោកឈរ